Imagine a book with 100 pages. It tells the story of the human race. You open it, excited to read about our origins, but you are shocked to find that the first 98 pages are blank. They are empty. Only on the very last page in the bottom paragraph do we see the pyramids, the Roman Empire, and the invention of the iPhone. This is the reality of our history. We Homo sapiens have walked this earth for around 300,000 years. Yet we have only written down our history for the last 6,000. Where are the missing years? Where are the lost civilizations, the forgotten wars, and the triumphs that occurred in the deep silence of the ice? Today we are going to fill in the blank pages. We are going back to the time of monsters, of ice, and of near extinction. Welcome to the lost 100,000 years. Our story does not begin with a kingdom. It begins with a catastrophe. To understand who we are, we must look at our DNA. Geneticists have long been puzzled by a disturbing fact. Humans have incredibly low genetic diversity compared to other primates like chimpanzees. We are all surprisingly similar. This lack of variation is the chemical signature of a ghost story. It suggests that at some point in the deep past, the human population crashed. We almost vanished. The theory points to a specific Tuesday, roughly 74,000 years ago. On the island of Sumatra, the earth opened up. The Toba supervolcano erupted. It was not just an explosion, it was an apocalypse. It ejected nearly 3,000 cubic kilometers of rock and ash into the stratosphere. To put that in perspective, it was thousands of times more powerful than the eruption of Mount St. Helens. The sky turned black. The sun was blotted out for years. A volcanic winter descended upon the planet. In Africa, the tropical lushness withered into a dry, cold wasteland. The human population, which was already fragile, was decimated. Estimates vary, but some genetic models suggest that the total number of breeding pairs of humans on Earth dropped to as few as 2,000. The entire future of our species, every astronaut, every king, every artist who would ever live was hanging by a thread, huddled around dying fires in the African dust. We were an endangered species. But this bottleneck did something important. It acted as a filter. The weak died, the slow died. Only the most adaptable, the most intelligent, and the most cooperative survived. The fire of the Toba volcano didn't kill us. It forged us. As the skies finally cleared in the centuries past, the survivors looked outward. For hundreds of thousands of years, humans had largely stayed in Africa. The Sahara and the Arabian deserts were formidable barriers, oceans of sand that killed anyone who tried to cross. But around 65,000 years ago, the climate shifted again. The planet entered a new glacial phase. The sea levels dropped, locking water up in the polar ice caps. The gates of grief, the Bab el-Mandeb Strait between Africa and Arabia, became narrow and shallow. We took the leap. We became the ultimate invasive species. We didn't leave in a massive army. We left in small bands, families looking for better fishing, better water, game. From Arabia, we followed the coastlines. This was the beachcomber highway. Some groups turned east, hugging the shores of India. They moved impossibly fast, reaching the shores of Australia in just a few thousand years, maritime feat that baffles archaeologists to this day. Others turned north, marching into the dark, cold heart of Europe. But as we stepped into these new lands, we realized something terrifying. We were not the first ones there. Chapter 3, The Others. Europe was not an empty wilderness waiting for us. It was already claimed. It belonged to the Neanderthals. For decades, Victorian science depicted the Neanderthal as a dumb, hunchbacked brute, a failed experiment. We now know how wrong that was. They were the masters of the Ice Age. They were shorter than us, but far stronger, with bones as dense as a modern weightlifter's. Their brains were actually larger than ours. They had lived in Europe for hundreds of thousands of years. They knew every cave, every river, and every migration route of the woolly mammoth. What happened when we met? It is the ultimate first contact story. Did we shake hands or did we throw spears? The archaeological record shows layers of ash and destruction that often coincide with the arrival of modern humans. It is likely we warred. We were faster, our weapons had better range, and we worked in larger groups. But we didn't just fight. We did something else. We loved them. In 2010, the Neanderthal genome was sequenced, changing history forever. It proved that anyone of non-African descent, whether you are European, Asian, or Native American, carries Neanderthal DNA. Roughly 2 to 4% of your genome comes from them. We didn't just replace the Neanderthals, we absorbed them. We mated with them. And further east, in the frozen caves of Siberia, we met the Denisovan, another ghost lineage of humanity. The world was a Lord of the Rings style map of different human species. But by 40,000 years ago, silence fell. The Neanderthals vanished, the Denisovans vanished. Only we remained. Why? Perhaps our language was more complex, allowing us to plan better wars. Perhaps our social networks were tighter. Or perhaps we were just more ruthless. Chapter 4, The Great Leap Forward. With the competition gone, something magical happened. Around 40,000 years ago, the lights turned on in the human mind. Archaeologists call this the Upper Paleolithic Revolution. Before this moment, stone tools were purely functional, a sharp rock to cut meat. But suddenly, tools became beautiful. In a cave in Germany, we found the Lion Man, a figure carved from mammoth ivory. It is a human body with the head of a cave lion. This tiny statue is profound. It proves that humans had developed abstract imagination. They could conceive of a creature that did not exist in the real world. They had mythology, they had stories, they had guns. Deep in the caves of France and Spain, at Chauvet and Lascaux, they began to paint. These were not crude doodles. They were masterpieces of perspective and motion. They painted horses running, lions hunting, rhinos charging. They used the curves of the cave walls to give the animals 3D volume. And they made music. We have found flutes carved from the wing bones of vultures. Imagine a winter night in the Ice Age 35,000 years ago. A tribe gathers deep underground, lit by flickering torches. The air is thick with the smell of burning animal fat. A shaman plays a haunting melody on a bone flute while the tribe stares at the moving shadows of the painted lions on the wall. They were exactly like us. They had the same brain capacity, the same emotions, the same fears. They just lived in a harder world. The world began to freeze. The last glacial maximum approached. The ice sheets ground down from the north, covering the locations of modern-day Chicago, London, and Berlin under 2 miles of solid ice. Humans were pushed out of the forests and onto the mammoth steppe. This was a biome that no longer exists, a vast, cold, dry grassland that stretched all the way from Spain to Siberia. To survive here, we needed help. We made an alliance that changed the course of history. We didn't domesticate the cat. The cat domesticated itself later to catch mice in our barns. We didn't domesticate the cow yet, but we befriended the wolf. The timeline is debated, but genetic evidence suggests that around 20 to 30,000 years ago, the gray wolf began to change. Some wolves, perhaps the outcasts, began to follow human hunting parties. They learned that we left scraps of meat behind. Over generations, aggression was bred out. Fear was replaced by loyalty. They became our hunting partners, tracking game with noses we couldn't match. They became our guards, warning us of saber-toothed cats in the night. And they became our heaters, sleeping with us to share warmth in the sub-zero temperatures. Anthropologists have a saying, man took the wolf and the wolf took man. Without the dog, it is very possible that humanity would not have. We often forget that the map of the Ice Age looked totally different because so much of the world's water was trapped. In the polar ice caps, sea levels were nearly 400 feet lower than they are today. This exposed massive amounts of land that are now underwater. If you stood on the beach in France 15,000 years ago, you wouldn't see the ocean. You would see a vast green plain stretching all the way to England. This lost land is known as Doggerland. It was the heart of Europe, a hunter's paradise, teeming with herds of deer and rivers full of fish. In Southeast Asia, the islands of Indonesia were connected into a massive continent called Sundaland. These were the homes of millions of our ancestors. But then the Great Thaw began. The ice melted. The water rose. It wasn't always a slow rise. Sometimes it was violent. Around 6200 BC, a massive underwater landslide off the coast of Norway, the Storega slide, triggered a tsunami that devastated the coastlines of northern Europe. Doggerland was drowned. Today, fishermen in the North Sea frequently drag up mammoth bones, human spear, points, and even human skulls from the bottom of the ocean. It is a haunting reminder how many tribes, how many cultures, and how many proto-civilizations were swallowed by the rising tide. We may never know. The ice retreated, the world warmed. In the Middle East, in the Levant, a group of people called the Natufians did something radical. They stopped moving. For nearly 300,000 years, we had been nomads chasing the seasons, but the Natufians found a place so rich in wild gazelle and wild wheat that they didn't need to leave. They built the first permanent stone houses. They hadn't invented farming yet. They were just harvesting wild nature efficiently. But this sedentary life changed us. We found skeletons of Natufian women with severe arthritis in their knees and backs, evidence of hours spent grinding grain on stone slabs. We traded the freedom of the nomad for the security of the home. They also give us our first true look at sentimentality. We found a Natufian grave where an elderly human was, buried with their arm around a puppy. It is a bridge across time, a testament to the bond we formed in the ice. And finally, we come to the smoking gun, the discovery that broke archaeology. Göbekli Tepe. In the 1990s in southern Turkey, shepherds noticed strange stones sticking out of the ground. Excavations revealed a massive temple complex dated to 10,000 BC. This date is shocking. That is 6,000 years older than Stonehenge, 7,000 years older than the pyramids. It belongs to the end of the Ice Age. The standard theory of history was first came farming, then came cities, and then came religion. Göbekli Tepe flipped the script. These people were hunter-gatherers. They had no wheel, no metal, no farms. Yet they came together to carve 20-ton limestone pillars and arrange them in perfect circles. This suggests that belief was the glue that held us together. The need to worship something greater than ourselves drove us to organize, to build, and eventually to farm just to feed the hundreds of workers building the temple. Civilization was not an economic accident. It was a spiritual project, from the ash of the Toba volcano to the stone pillars of Turkey. The lost 100,000 years were not empty. They were the forge. We are the descendants of the ones who didn't freeze, the ones who befriended the wolf, the ones who dared to cross the sea. We tend to think of civilization as the moment we became smart, but the truth is the hardware has been the same for millennia. The brilliance of Einstein, the art of Da Vinci, and the spirit of exploration, it was all there, sitting around a campfire in the Ice Age, waiting for the ice to melt. All there, sitting around a campfire in the Ice Age, waiting for the ice to melt. You are the result of 300,000 years of survival. History is just the final chapter of a very long book. If you want to keep exploring the missing pages of our past, you know what to do. Click that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We are Antiquity's Veil, and we have many more secrets to uncover. Comment below. If you could time travel to one moment in prehistory, the Toba eruption, or the first meeting with a Neanderthal, which would you choose? I'll see you in the next one.